Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 100 Debates on the Environment and More. First things first, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. As a community, we have the responsibility to honor, care for, and respect all the creation gives to provide us with life. This includes the land, water, air, fire, animals, plants, and our ancestors. The Anishinaabe peoples have utilized this land for millennia, and we would like to acknowledge their direct descendants, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land, upon which we live, work, and conduct ourselves. We acknowledge our treaty relationships and responsibilities to both the land and these original peoples. We also recognize that this land is rich in pre-contact history and customs, which includes the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee, and since European contact, has and continues to become home for Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. It is in the spirit of and intent of the Dish with One Spoon, One Palm agreement, where we will collectively care for and respect the land, water, animals, and each other in the interests of peace and friendship for the benefit of not only ourselves, but to our future descendants. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kane. I use he, him pronouns. I will be a moderator for tonight's debate, and my co-moderator tonight is Marina. We are pleased to have you all here this evening and to be here ourselves. So again, thank you all for being here for the 100 Debates on the Environment and More. The debate is part of GreenPAC's 100 Debates on the Environment, the Halton Environmental Network, and their partners are bringing you the debates at all 5 ridings tonight. A quick agenda run through for tonight. We are in the middle of introductions, land acknowledgement, the debate process, and candidate introductions. Following that, we'll go through the HACEN and GreenPAC questions. Following that, we'll go through some partner questions, questions that were submitted by some partners for tonight's event. After that, we will go through the audience poll and community questions, more on that later. And then we will give some time for candidates and their closing statements, and then some closing remarks, and we will adjourn the debate around 9:30, 9:35. So HACEN, their supporters, and their partners have been working hard the last few weeks, calling all candidates and requesting their engagement for tonight's debate. We would like to thank all the candidates here this evening who agreed to come and speak to us tonight about the climate, the environment, and more. These candidates have made time in their busy schedules to join us, and we are looking forward to sharing the recording of this debate widely within our community. This evening, there will be a series of questions posed to the candidates. The first 2 questions are from GreenPAC and HACEN as part of the 100 Debates on the Environment and More, and similar questions are being asked across Canada tonight. The last 5 to 6 questions are brought to you by our partners and members of the public. The questions from the public were submitted to us in advance of tonight's debate. Us and our partners adjudicated these community questions, and we will be sharing the top 5 questions that will be shared later tonight via a Zoom poll. This is your chance to select your top 2 questions, where the most popular 2 questions will be asked to our candidates. So stay tuned for more information on that. Finally, the candidates will have 2 minutes to share their final remarks with us, and we will close the Zoom webinar. Just a bit of housekeeping for this event. Please make sure you are in gallery mode to best view the candidates during the debate. You can change your view by clicking on the top right corner of the Zoom window and changing from speaker to gallery view. It will also help to be in full screen so you can see the candidates clearly throughout the call. Please note we have closed captioning for this webinar, and you do not have an option to turn this off. The debate is being recorded and will be shared via the HACEN website and the HACEN YouTube channel, so please watch our social media channels for more information on that after the debate. You will see a timekeeper on your screen. They will be holding up a yellow card for 30 seconds and a red card for time is up. And this will help candidates stay on track and keep it fair among candidates. If you have any technical questions, please ask HACEN in the chat box, which you can find on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Quick introduction of our partners. We have Sustainable Milton, which is a grassroots nonprofit community organization with a focus on making Milton a healthier, more adaptive, resilient, and ultimately more sustainable community. And we are excited to partner with them this evening. We also have the Halton Environmental Network, which strives to make the community of Halton a region with educated citizens, engaged stakeholders, and best practice policies for climate change mitigation and adaptation, and environmental sustainability. And last but not least, please be excited to meet your candidates for this evening. We have Chris Kowalczyk representing the Green Party. We have Adam Van Couverton from the Liberal Party. And we have Mohammed Riaz Sahi from the New Democratic Party. So the first question is brought from HACEN and GreenPAC, and that'll be on climate change. So in Canada and around the world, we have seen fires, extreme weather, droughts, infrastructure challenges, and more. The effects of climate change cannot be denied, all while our greenhouse gas emissions are still rising in Canada. To the candidates, how will you ensure we accelerate climate change mitigation, build resilient communities, and implement rapid, tangible solutions that include a just recovery for all Canadians? So first to answer will be the New Democratic Party candidate.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Riaz Sahi. I'm your NDP candidate in Milton. So the question is basically asking that, how will you ensure to accelerate the climate change mitigation and build the resilient communities? I guess there are multiple levels that you can do that, and building the resilient communities should be at the forefront of this climate change. So you can use the new technologies. You can draw the new carbon, new reforestations. You can also produce and rebuild the new soil. So decarbonization should be at the forefront, and then decentralization and digitalization of the economy. So it's a global challenge. Climate change is not just a challenge for one region, or it's not a challenge for one nation. It transcends boundaries. So if you have to be more adaptive, and you have to be smart to build an inclusive world, which would which means that you have to accelerate the electric and clean and equitable mobility. So we need to invest more into the infrastructure, which is more equitable and which is more kind of electrically generated. And then we have to build the new resilient communities. So the challenge that I find is that we are dealing with the climate change at different government levels. So there needs to be a response which is inclusive. So because the challenge in itself is it does not kind of contain itself to one kind of geographical area, so the response should also transcend the boundaries. So for example, like every year in Canada, more than $1 billion has been, is just direct damages from the flooding, and like there's more than $2 billion which are kind of, more went to address those challenges. So if we have more resilient communities, then we can kind of meet that challenge. So
sorry to cut you off, Mohammed, but it is 2 minutes, and we have the red sign here. Thank you for your time.
Next to answer will be the Green Party candidate, Chris Kowalczyk.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for inviting me and allowing me to participate in this. I thought we were going to actually do a little bit of introduction of how long we've been involved in things, but I'll cut to the chase. This isn't new news. As a 22-year-old in 1984, I ran for the Green Party in Halton, basically on the exact same platform that the Green Party has now. So when I say, how will you ensure accelerate climate change mitigation, build resilient communities, implement rapid tangible solutions that include a just recovery for all Canadians? Well, maybe if somebody started a political party based on those values, and then the people in the Halton Environmental Network and other allied groups among the Green Movement were to support that political party, because the only thing missing to achieve all those goals has been the political will. So I've always been of the belief that the Greens Party obligation is to recruit, fund, and run candidates. We don't have all the answers, but the answers are out there. And a fact, science-based approach to policy is way better than what we've evolved to. And my question is, to Adam and to Mohammed, it's a shame. We're like our own little echo chamber here, as I was telling the people from Halton Environmental Network. I mean, we're basically all on the same page. How we get there, I almost say, is, well, we get the Liberal Party or the party of power to co-opt Green Party policy, and then we will get there. But really, it means voting for the Green Party and getting political power. But the fact that the Conservative candidate or the People's Party candidate aren't even here, I don't know how anybody who's even thinks about the environment, that the climate change is even an issue, or any of this is an issue, and their candidates didn't appear. That should be the takeaway from voters from this event. Thank you.
Thank you. And Adam Van Couverton from the Liberal Party, is your turn for response.
Thank you, Kane. And before I start, I just want to thank the organizers and everybody that worked so hard to pull off a political debate. I know it's a challenge in this context, but I'm also glad that everybody can join from home and listen in as to what the candidates are saying. And it's nice to be back. This was one of the best events organized in the 2019 election, and I sure am proud to be here. My name is Adam Van Couverton. 2 weeks ago, I was the MP, and I'm running here as a candidate for the Liberal Party once again in this election, and I'm very proud to be here. So thanks again. To answer the question, just yesterday we experienced a really major storm in the GTA, and it's another example of the fact that extreme weather events are going to become more and more common. It's a reality that our winters will be like a roller coaster, and our summers will be hotter and sometimes longer. And it's also a reality that this will have disproportionate impacts on the most vulnerable people in our community and the most vulnerable people around the world. And that's something that we need to confront, from my perspective, on 3 different levels. One is mitigation. We need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can locally to mitigate these impacts. 2, we need to build resiliency into this community and our communities across Canada to ensure that we can withstand some of these impacts. I talked to 3 friends today that had leaky roofs yesterday because of the extreme heat, destroyed the shingles, I suppose, and then a crazy storm. And the 3rd and most obvious is reductions. We need to decarbonize. We need to reduce our carbon emissions. So this is so critical and important. One of the things that I've been focused on as the Member of Parliament here for the last 2 years is to bring more public transit to Milton, because one of the things that I heard at the doors in 2019 is that Milton Transit wasn't adequate. People couldn't choose to take public transit. In addition to the $4 million that I brought to Milton Public Transit from the federal government, and an ongoing commitment to keep funding their good ideas, better routes, and electrification of their vehicles, we also have $500 million for both direction all-day GO train service. That means that Miltonians can choose to have 2 cars rather than 3, perhaps 1 car rather than 2. We're likely to be a car community, but we all need to make adjustments to our lives, to our livelihoods, and how we make decisions. And I'm proud of some of the work that we've done, including tree planting, 50,000 trees, lots more on that. But I can see that the red sign is up, and I don't want to go over time. Thank you.
Great, thank you, everyone. So moving on to our second question. We have that COVID-19 has showcased how interconnected global crises can be. It has shown how vulnerable our world can be, how people are affected by crises differently, and how the populations can adapt and work together to protect the common good. With so much learned from addressing the COVID-19 pandemic, what lessons do you believe we should apply to the climate crisis, and how would you follow through with them if elected? So first to speak, we have Adam Van Couverton from the Liberal Party.
Thanks so much. I'm back. COVID-19 really has showcased exactly how vulnerable communities are impacted by a large global event. And I think that we have recognized that governments can actually move really quickly when there's an emergency. So through COVID-19, we saw that the Liberal government took massive actions very, very swiftly. That whole idea of around mitigation, resilience, and reduction applies to our reaction and our response to COVID-19 as well. The experts recognize that the Liberal plan for the environment balances the priorities and addresses the problems. It's why people like Mark Jackard, Thomas Mulcair, and the former leader of the Green Party in British Columbia have given the Liberal plan to address the climate crisis the top marks. If I can talk about those just very briefly, we have committed to protect at least 30% of land, freshwater, ocean, and shoreline by 2030. That's remarkable because when the Liberal government was elected in 2015, less than 1% of Canada's land mass was protected. And already in 2021, it's up to 14%. So great progress has been made. And I also want to say that we've been working very hard as a group of Halton MPs to ensure that some of that protected area and some of those new national parks, we've promised 10 new national parks, 10 new national marine conservation areas, and 15 national urban parks. We want to see some of those here reflected so that people locally can continue to build that affinity for the natural environment, their love for the outdoors, because that creates more ambassadorships. It produces more young environmentalists and people who are committed. And if you don't have to, drive to somewhere far away in order to access nature, that's good for climate change mitigation as well. We've made the two largest investments in nature conservation in Canadian history in the last 6 years. And we're committed to that 2030 target of reducing our emissions, as 2035 target, to reducing our emissions by 40%. And we're committed to the target of 30% land conservation by 2030. And I see that my time's up.
Thank you, Adam. Next is the NDP candidate. Mohammed, it is your turn for response.
Yeah, I guess there are many lessons that we can learn from this COVID crisis, and those lessons can be applied to face the climate change. So the first lesson that everybody, I hope that everybody would learn that the global challenges need a global response. So you cannot really respond a global challenge with just one nation or one political party so that is the first lesson that I guess all of us need to learn and all of us need to keep in mind. And then, that the public health, the second lesson I would say that the public health is a shared responsibility. So it's not only responsibility of one level of government. So it needs to be all level of governments, like a federal, provincial, and territorial. So a consistent approach and also a consistent planning is required for all governments to work together. And then, there's another lesson, I guess, with this COVID crisis, that not only the response is not equitable. If you see how different nations have responded, it's there's a huge disparity, and we need to work together as we are all humans. That is one thing, that if you don't breathe for 3 minutes, you would die, and if you breathe polluted air, you would be sick. So everybody needs to learn that and how the recovery is going. So it should be just for all. There are some nations who don't have even the first shot. So and there are communities within Canada who are affected more than the other communities. Women, they're affected more, and our response and the people in the long-term care and how we kind of responded in this crisis was shameful, I guess. I guess my time is up. Thank you so much.
Hello?
Hi. Yes, Chris, it is your turn to speak on behalf of the Green Party.
Well, again, I don't know if my forehead looks shiny because I've been smashing it against the wall for 37 years. We're all talking about this and that. I was with the Green Party back when this was our policy, which is to transition from a carbon-based economy to a sustainable and a finite planet. Think small, think beautiful. Elizabeth May, the leader of the Green Party and arguably the one who built the party's reputation of the party. Elected by her fellow MPs, like the All-Star Game, is the most knowledgeable, the most working across proactively and cooperatively across the aisle with other MPs. And I'm not going to say that certainly the Liberals or the NDP are fueling this divisive nature in politics, but what I find literally frustrating is that the reason I am back running with the Greens again after being a Liberal for years is because I went to all sorts of plenary sessions for the Liberals to get electoral reform on the ballot. And then the first thing they did was drop the ballot and then bought the TMX pipeline into Trans Mountain. Well, I grew up in Port Moody, British Columbia, which is a kilometer through the woods to where that diluted pipeline already goes into the harbor of Vancouver. And it was just on principle alone, buying into the pipeline as a Canadian taxpayer, it drove me to distraction. And it's like I said, I'm not here to disparage Adam or the Liberals, but I'm just telling you that's why I ended up back with the Greens, because I really want to hear from Adam now that he's been in a couple of years, seen how the sausage is made. For example, let's get to the CN intermodal, and I'll know why Lisa Raitt, who's the transport minister, and Adam, they're handcuffed and they can't do anything with the existing system. Like, it is insane, and the system needs to change. And that's the whole Green philosophy: is decisions need to be made at the most local level. And truly, the parties that are going to be successful are going to be the ones that adopt Green Party policy, because we're advocating everything that has to be done in order for us to survive. Thanks, my little rant.
Sorry. Thank you.
So the next question that we're going to ask is being asked on behalf of Grandmothers Acting to Save the Planet, GASP. And the order for answering this question is Chris Kowalczyk will answer first, and then Adam will answer next, and Mohammed will answer third. And the question is, every citizen and every party needs to be mobilized to fight the climate crisis. How will you work across the partisan divide to do this? Chris, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. And it's at this point I want to give a shout out to Eleanor Hayward, who lives her life by green values in the way she deals with people and approaches life in a way that really, like I said, that's why, it's hard to get people to run for office. And you saw why. I mean, they were throwing rocks. The People's Party were doing demonstrations at Trudeau's events and throwing rocks. And if that's such a sad reflection of what politics has devolved to. And that's why, to be honest, I mean, I've always admired Elizabeth May's approach, plus out of necessity of having to work across the aisle and being the most informed MP, because you have to be a credible alternative to the existing situation. So, as you know, in Canada, we generally pick the party the least worst. We vote against the other party. And I mean, it's the cycle of going, with all due respect, like I said, Adam, you've been a great constituent MP, you've been a champion of the environment, but I want to know, like when did you think that you probably paddled in the Indian Arm, Like, how did you feel when you found out that all of a sudden they're going to be pumping that, we bought into it as a taxpayer, which to me, it's like, it's something we should have gotten rid of. So how would I work? Well, I'll put it this way. I'm like a lot of people, I have a lot of electric experience, and I'm separated, but me and my ex-wife worked together to do what's the best interest of our children. And to this day, we get along better than probably most married couples, and along with our kids and her husband and my partner. So I tend to try to lead my life by example, and I treat the person in front of me who's getting me a coffee or gas as the most important person in the world, because that's who they are. I am not a good negotiator. I know my limits and strengths, but I would advocate on the people of Milton. Thank you.
All right, and next to answer the question will be Adam.
Thank you, Marina. I couldn't agree more that reaching across partisan divides and working together is important. I'm proud that I've worked together with Sustainable Milton and HEN and a lot of other individuals on this call over the past 2 years to address issues of common concern with respect to the environment and climate change here locally. I'm also proud that I was able to receive some feedback from local people on this webinar who I know that are here to help strengthen Bill C-12. And Bill C-12 went into committee one way and came out a little bit stronger. And it's because of local people here in Milton and local people across the country that provided great feedback. But look, experts and other political leaders, as I've said, agree that when it comes to climate change, if you're voting climate, then you're voting Liberal. Our plan is it's the most ambitious, it's the most feasible, and it's scored the best points from experts. I'm not a climate change expert. I studied phys ed in university. I have a minor in environmental science, but that does not make me an expert. But the experts say that our plan is the best. Young people that I meet, and I have a youth council, had a youth council here in Milton. We'll get it back together in October if I'm reelected. They want our political parties to agree and have a plan that reflects the severity of our threat. And I honestly and truly believe that our party plan does that. We absolutely need to work together. And I'll also say that we do. I'll recognize that there's a progressive majority in Canada. Most people vote for the Liberals, the NDP, and the Green Party, and that's a good thing. That constitutes probably 65% of the voters, which is a good thing. But the second most likely outcome is the worst case scenario, and that's a conservative government. And Chris, I appreciate all the kind words. One of my contributions to politics was to remove one conservative who was climate change denying from Parliament. And the more we do that, and the more progressives we get in the House of Commons, the better our country and our planet will be. There's no perfect party. There's no perfect plan, but experts agree that the Liberal plan is the best one. On the Liberal plan, we incorporate the ministries. Every single ministry in the government has a green lens. And I see that the time is up. So I might incorporate some of my answer into my closing.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Adam. And Mohammed, you have 2 minutes.
I guess it's a great question, and if we as different representatives of the different political parties, we have to join hands to fight this challenge, because it's not a challenge for one political party and it's not a challenge for one country. It has to have a collaborative and more planned response to this challenge. So I consider myself to be a negotiator. I kind of, being a lawyer, so I love kind of negotiating, and what I feel is like, if there is no collective response, then the outcome cannot be like as great as we hope for, and we don't have much time left for. So for next 2 or 3 years, if we don't kind of live up to this, whatever we are kind of seeing the challenge, then I guess we are running out of time. So a collaborative and more effort would be the more effective effort. So I definitely agree with Chris that if we don't, we have to go across the boundaries and across the political parties and across the spectrums, and so that is what I think is should be the best response. I'll leave it you guys there.
Good, thanks for your answer, Mohammed. The next question has a bit of a lead in, so stay with us. It's a question that is being asked on behalf of Sustainable Milton, and the order of answering this question will be Chris first, then Mohammed, and thirdly Adam. Here we go. In order to meet Canada's commitment to be net zero by 2050, it is generally accepted that building codes will be changed to ensure that future buildings use only clean power and green energy sources, and will be built to new green development standards. However, existing buildings and houses, which use mostly gas, propane, and oil for heating, will need to be retrofitted to change to renewable fuel and will not be as energy efficient. What will you do immediately and over the next 4 years to ensure that there is a clear path to practical implementation to improve existing building stock? Chris, you first.
Well, we back in 84, 85, and 87, when I put myself forward as a Green Party candidate, we should have maybe voted for that, because part of my problem with the platform then was why aren't we greening the building code so all those houses up in Mattamy aren't passive solar and collecting all the gray water in systems? I was talking about that at the Milton Chamber of Commerce 37 years ago. So what am I going to do? Well, I've been a general contractor for the last 12 years. I remember talking about it back in the 80s about saying if instead of building Darlington nuclear power plant, because it was before it was built, if we'd spent as much money insulating and hyper insulating and passive solar and retrofitting small individual houses as we did building that plant, we would have saved it on the long run. So like when I hear that, what are we going to do? Well, we could keep, you know what, insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. And I understand, to Adam's point, the Conservatives have no plan on climate. The convention wouldn't even acknowledge that climate change existed. They couldn't pass it on the floor. The People's Party, again, they're another party that blew off this meeting. I'm sure that's not an issue for them because they have other more important issues. What they are, I don't know. But what are we going to do? Well, I've spent the last 12 years as a general contractor retrofitting homes and that. The fact that I've worked on a lot of actually energy efficient home, and I built one in Bronte that was built by, it was a net zero home, hyper insulated, passive solar, drainage on the driveway. So I've done it hands on, but I've never been elected to political power to have the political will to make the changes. And that's what it takes. So like I said, I'll acknowledge that the Liberals are the least worst of the two major choices, but in terms of achieving the goals that you're talking about, you need a Green Party, someone in there. Hopefully I'll be the balance of power in a Conservative minority.
All right, thanks, Chris. And Mohammed, you're next. 2 minutes.
Yeah. So definitely, like, building codes needs to be changed to kind of fight this, because if you look at the we have to reach the net zero goal by 2050, and building codes are consistent. If we keep doing this, then we would not reach that mark. So of course, like, the more solar panels, I guess, needed to for the electricity, and the housing, there needs to be more cleaner energy, and the more we will invest in the cleaner energy, so it will be better for the future. So what I will do is, I guess, like, this is a huge challenge. So I guess we need to have the science-based answers, not only for every challenge, but especially with the climate challenge. So I would look for more kind of science-based answers to resolve these issues. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mohammed. And Adam.
Thanks, Marina. First and foremost, this applies to, okay, great question, first of all, because it's absolutely right. And I know that there are some architects, including Marina and others on the call, so this is of prime importance. We have a lot of homes and buildings in Milton that are very old, and a lot of people live in rural Milton. And a lot of people are, big environmentalists who live in rural Milton, but they still heat their homes with home heating oil or other fossil fuels. So one of the great things that's in our platform is that we're helping Canadians to save money by improving the energy efficiency of their homes with up to $5,000 in grants and making up to $40,000 in interest-free loans, whether you're just replacing windows or making upgrades ahead of a tough winter. This is going to be a really, really great innovation. It'll also help people change. I installed some Chris, you probably know more about this than me, but they're basically heat pumps, which allows me to rely less on my fossil fueled radiator system in my house. So it's also air conditioning. But one of the problems with Canada's climate is that we switch from air conditioning to heating almost overnight in Canada. And that's one of the reasons why Canadians have, on average, the highest carbon footprint of any country, which is something that we need to acknowledge and something that we need to work on. Something that I'm going to do immediately upon re-election is to make sure that it's really easy for people who live in rural Milton, for people who are on home heating oil and have other updates that they would like to make. They know how to get that Enercare home audit done, and they know exactly where to go. I'll create a package. If Sustainable Milton and perhaps Green Propeller wants to help out, then that would be really great, because I'm certainly no expert. But we'll find experts and we'll ensure that there's a package available so that you can get that home energy audit completed.
and has that access to this home energy efficiency update as quickly as possible. There's also quite a lot in our platform about the price on pollution that I think applies here, perhaps not directly, but I wanted to read a quote because it's from a friend of mine, and it's from a Guardians program. The Guardians program is a land conservation group that, oh, I saw my, okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Sorry, I'll read the quote from another time. I've got a lot to say.
All right, and the second question from Sustainable Milton. Canada's capacity to feed the population is threatened by climate change, particularly in the built-up population centres where agricultural land is continuously being converted to new development. Food production is increasingly difficult. There is an urgent need to protect prime agricultural farmland so that our food needs can be met by the farming industry. What will your party do immediately to ensure that all remaining prime agricultural land in the GTHA will be protected from development and secured for food production? Mohammed, you're going first. You have 2 minutes. You have to unmute yourself.
So I guess like NDP, like we need to find, it's the NDP slogan. The climate crisis is putting everyone that we value. So everything that we value is at risk. And I guess agriculture is, and it is eating out our agriculture land. And as an NDP candidate, I guess I would be in the position to make it the minimum impact on the agriculture. I guess NDP has a good fighting plan for the climate crisis, and will cut emissions, and that would be 1.5 target, will create hundreds and thousands of good jobs, and I guess fighting for the green land and for the farmland is like the agenda of NDP. Thank you so much. I think I'm not really sure that how is this going to be like practically implemented. So I would like to listen what other panelists would say on this one.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mohammed. Chris, you're next.
Well, maybe again, if people interested in sustainable farming, if we had a political party that was based on sustainable principles that we could vote for. What would I do? Actually, I was at the Milton farmers market getting signatures to be on the ballot for this election, and I met the young woman Ginny, who runs the farmers market this summer. Lovely young woman, third-year agricultural student at Guelph, and you know what? I bet you she knows, or she knows someone who knows what we should be doing, and we should be maybe taking that position as opposed to the positions of the lobbyists, like that. Like I almost want to take it back to what we're going to do to agricultural land. We're the CN hub model. It's not going on agricultural land per se. Yeah, it gets to sea land, but I almost want to ask Adam, because I know why are local MPs handcuffed when it comes to dealing with the local community doesn't want it where it's proposed. There's other alternative locations. How come you or even your predecessor from the other party couldn't, working on behalf of their community, come to a compromise with CN where it went somewhere everyone would like? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not expecting you to wear it or whatnot, but that's an example of agricultural land. Anything in Halton, that's flat, that's a field, that isn't a house, is agricultural land, because the whole place, I mean, my house in Oakville is on an old orchard. So having said that, I almost went out of it. I go, tell me why you're handcuffed, because I'd love to know. That's the part of the sausage being made I don't understand, and I empathize, and I just want to know from your perspective, because you're the one who's dealing with it on the doorstep, right? More than anybody, probably. I'm done. That's it. We all talk too much anyways.
Thanks, Chris. Adam, you've got 2 minutes.
Thanks, Marina. And Chris, you keep asking me a lot of questions. I appreciate them. If I get reelected and you want to see how the sausage is made, come hang out in my office for a couple of days and we can talk about all these things, okay? I'd love to have you up. I'm glad that you met Ginny over at the Farmers Market. She was hired through Canada Summer Jobs Program. I'm a huge supporter of the Farmers Market. I saw you there. It was good to see you. It wasn't my first Farmers Market. It was like my 50th Farmers Market. I go there every single Saturday, and that's where I buy my veggies and my fruit. And I'm really enjoying the Ontario peaches right now because I grew up on my uncle's apple orchard in the summers having stone fruit, and they are delicious. Thank you, Kim Bradshaw, for the question. I'm going to call you out. I know you asked it because we've been talking about this lately. I think that if we're trying to ensure that 25% of the country's natural lands are protected, that could include sustainable farming practices as well. So something that I would love to talk about how to do is ensure that there are agricultural carve-outs to the 25% to ensure that land is protected here in Halton for sustainable farming practices. So that we can have more local produce at our farmers market, so that we can enjoy better local food sustainability and local food infrastructure. I'm very proud to have facilitated $300,000 or more through the local food infrastructure program for various food rescue programs, for farms that are doing just that, for Country Heritage Park, which is doing an extraordinary job. I eat their eggs. They managed to make a dozen eggs for $3. I encourage anybody to go to Country Heritage Park and pick up a dozen eggs or some sausages that are, you know, if you eat meat, then the sausages are great. And they are from animals that were raised locally. And that's pretty great. We've got a lot of options. We've got great honey. We've got great syrup. We've got people that grow a lot of different things, and we can consume a lot of local food. And I talk a lot about Canadians and their carbon footprint has a lot to do with where we get our food. If you're choosing avocados over local green peppers, then that's a higher footprint. So thanks again for the question, and looking forward to working on that when I'm back in office.
All right. Thank you, Adam. So take a breath. Now we're going to turn to something slightly different. We're going to do our polling questions from the public. So to all of the people who are on this webinar, we want to hear from you now. On the screen, you'll see a live poll. Please select your top 2 questions that you would like the candidates to answer. And let's give everyone a chance to select their questions. You've got about 30 to 40 seconds before we see what the top results are. And I'm just waiting for the question to be put in the chat, the top questions, and I'll read them out loud. Still waiting. All right, everybody, can you keep voting? Has everybody voted at this point? I think there's a lot more participants on here than what the votes that we have. All right, and here we have the results. So 53% are for question 2 and 47% for question 3. All right, let's do question 2 first then. So the first question is, and Adam, you're going to answer this question first. Do you believe that all parties should put partisan thinking aside and work together in a special emergency committee to put forth stronger goals to achieve net zero by 2050? Adam.
Thank you. That's a very good question. I indeed do believe that we should put partisanship aside and work towards net zero by 2050. And I'm also proud that net zero to achieve, a plan to achieve net zero by 2050 is in our platform, and experts agree that ours is the most feasible, the most ambitious, and the most likely to be successful. And I would also say that there are opportunities for other parties to contribute to bill. You know, there was C28 was on there. That's the right to a clean environment bill. There's also Bill C12, which passed through committee before Parliament rose for the summer. But I'll also say that some parties squandered the opportunity to strengthen it. They showed up at committee and chose to be activists and protest rather than actually work constructively together. So it's important that we talk about collaboration, but then when we're given the opportunity to collaborate, I really hope that people use that time constructively. And I'm talking about my colleagues in Parliament right now, because that's what we need to do in order to achieve these goals. But I'll also say that the Liberal plan achieves it. The Liberal plan will achieve it. And I'm in politics and I'm involved in public service to ensure that, to hold my government to account, to hold my party to account. And I've told this to everybody at the door for the last 3 years as I've been knocking. I didn't get involved in the Liberal Party because it's perfect. I got involved because I want to make a difference and I want to make it better. We made Bill C12 better together, collectively, and we can achieve these goals quicker, better, more sustainably, and in a more effective manner if we work together. And I know, you know what, I'll say this, there are members of most parties who are willing to work together. I would say most members of the NDP are quite interested in working together. I haven't found that same degree of willingness to collaborate from the Green Party, and certainly the Conservatives choose to obstruct. They choose to obstruct pretty much everything. I spent 55 hours last year debating whether or not we should pass the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People as Conservatives, and in the end of the day, they all voted against it anyway. So what a waste of time that was, right? But this is the parliamentary process that we have, and my time's up.
Okay, Mohammed, you're next.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with the question that we need to work together, and across the but like it seems like liberals talk a lot, but they don't act on that. They definitely would put the perfect plan, but they would not follow through. And conservatives, they don't even consider that it is a real challenge. And if you see, like, Canada is the only G7 country whose emissions have gone up since the Paris Agreement, and Canada has never met a single emission reduction goal. So and when we are have to as Ratul has said that this plan would not make any difference. So do you want someone who would just talk, or do you want someone who would just say like nice things and would not kind of act on that? And if you would see, like, Mr. Trudeau's hypocrisy on this matter, it's staggering. Like, he would say one thing, he would talk about the climate emergency one day, and the second day he would buy a pipeline. So it means that they realize that they know, like the liberals and conservatives, they know that this challenge cannot be met without the collaborative effort. But when it is time for action, they would not really follow through. So, as you see, like, we are in the middle of pandemic and we need to, solve these issues. But Mr. Trudeau kind of, chose to call the election. There was no need to that. If they were really want to have some kind of legislations, NDP was there to help them, and we were not, being pushed as Canadians into this, election. So yes, we need to work together, but I don't think so that the Liberals and Conservatives are ready to do that. Thank you so much.
All right. And Chris, what do you say?
Do I believe that all parties should put partisan thinking aside and work together in a special emergency committee to put forth stronger goals to achieve net zero by 2050? I think I probably can support that, because I'm almost certain Elizabeth May made that call in Parliament, if I'm not mistaken. So I think I can support that as one of the sitting members for the Green Party, that yes, we should, because I mean, Adam has more personal experience, but I guess maybe it's when you once bitten, twice shy, and perhaps that's a situation. But so, for example, like I said, I take it back to me, Adam. I wasn't necessarily going to be in Milton. That's where I got put by the Green Party to that point. Having said that, if it does split the vote, and I'm scared in this riding and in this election, that the People's Party are going to poll better in Milton than the Green Party, which is a sad reflection on the state of the community, especially after the great work that Eleanor Hayward did developing such a great organization. So, that's the reality of politics. That's what the split's going to be. The split's going to be on the right, but and the split on the left is going to be this three-way between the three progressives. It's maddening as hell. Like I said, as someone who's been involved for years, the fact that we're still having this discussion. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when people worked collaboratively together, Liberals and Conservatives and all the committees of Parliament. There was an old boys club. I mean, not that that's a good thing necessarily, but they would work together and make compromises. And unfortunately, the nature of the world these days, the Pierre Poilievres of the world, it's either you're on team one or team blue. It's either it's black or white. There's no gray, and I differ. The whole world is gray. Thank you.
All right, Chris. Thank you. Kane, are you going to ask the next question?
Yes, thank you to all the responses. So the next question that was voted by everyone was, what is your plan to end the extraction and use of fossil fuels in Canada, and how will your government support workers and communities whose main industry cannot exist in 30 years? So the order of answering that will be Chris, followed by Mohammed, and then Adam. So first, Chris, you have 2 minutes.
Well, all the experts apparently say that the Liberal plan is the best, so I guess I don't know. But my experience would see is that, let's say 40 or 50 years ago, we started planning to transition from a fossil-based economy to a more sustainable model. Greg Vezina, who was a candidate for the Green Party back in '84 when I was as well, is the head of a company called Hydrofuels. And he drove a car back in the 80s across the country to Parliament Hill, powered by hydrogen. He drove a car across the country powered by frying oil. But because we've given trillions of dollars over the last 100 years to the fossil fuel industry, and they still continue to this day, no matter which regime gets in, red or blue, these deals are in place. It's just like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which the Liberals inherited from the Harper regime. They're handcuffed by that, and China can challenge our trade laws, and it was a bad deal. So I would transition to a green economy by adopting the Green Party policy platform. And I'm not going to insult you by reading through it on a PowerPoint presentation. Everybody has a Google search box in their hand, and they can find it, they can look at it and decide for themselves. And I know what the experts are saying, but the reality on the ground is, if the Liberals' plan was the best, then we wouldn't be in a climate crisis, because they've been in charge for at least half or more. They've been the national governing party of Canada. And Adam, I get it to your point. Is it going to be way worse under the Conservatives? Hell yeah, but that's not the reason to make the compromise vote. And that's why I keep, Adam, if you do get reelected, I will be up there asking you, why is it that nothing can get done? Why is the status quo maintained? Thank you.
So next is Mohammed. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I guess for the last 150 years, we as humans have, used the fossil fuels to kind of for the energy, and that has a huge impact on the carbon footprint in the environment, and definitely so. If these fossil fuels are not being used, then there would be lots of job losses, and that is one of the arguments on the other side. So I guess we need, as if NDP is in the government, we would invest more on training, and we'll invest more on the skills, and we'll spend more on educating people. So there would be a huge kind of investment in the green jobs. So it's it's not only for these two industries, like of fossil fuel, like people who are working in the coal plants or the other. I guess in next 30 years there will be even a bigger challenge, a challenge that the young people who are going through the universities, they would not find the suitable jobs, because the economy would be changed, like artificial intelligence would take over. So we have to have a plan where we would invest more in the training and skills for the people who can meet the challenges of, say, 2050. So if we want to train our students to meet the challenges and this post-industrial economy and this post-fossil fuel use economy, we need a plan right now, and we need to invest more in education, and we need to invest more in the skills which would be required to meet those challenges in 2050. So, as NDP would don't consider spending money on education, we consider it as an investment, and we consider it as, so I'll just stop it over there.
Good. So thanks for all the answers to your questions, everyone. Oh, sorry, Adam. I apologize. I've missed you.
No problem, Marina. In 2005, there was 41 smog days in Ontario, and that's because we had coal-fired power, and it was a Liberal provincial government that shut all of the coal-fired power plants. There was more smog days in 2005 than there have been since. We will continue on that path, cutting out coal, phasing out thermal coal exports by 2030, which is a massive endeavor. We are also ensuring that the oil and gas sector meet our shared goal of net zero emissions by 2050, and continue to phase out all coal by 2030. This is so important. When I was training for the Olympics in 2005, I left the country that summer because the air quality index was so bad. And I'm glad that since then we haven't had that type of air quality issue. And that's because we ended coal fire. Imagine if we stopped driving fossil fuel powered vehicles and put sustainable practices into everything that we do. The impact has already been huge. We're also helping heavy industry decarbonize to create jobs. There's a couple of really great examples. There's one here in Milton with Rockwool. They are a company that makes some of the best insulation out of a byproduct from the steel industry. With a subsidy from the federal government, they are able to change the way they collect water. They use that water in a water jet to cut the product. It's a brilliant process. It's very carbon neutral. I don't know that it's carbon neutral, but it's because of our investments, they were able to get a lot closer to carbon neutrality. In addition to that, Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie is replacing all of its polluting coal-based steel making equipment with electric. It's investments like these that we are making with industry that is ensuring that a net zero carbon neutral future is possible. And this is why, Chris, experts are saying ours actually works, because we know that if you don't have a plan for the environment, then you don't have a plan for the economy. And if you don't have a plan for the economy, it works with the environment, it works both ways. We are also building a net zero electricity grid by 2035. And we're also going to eliminate all fossil fuel subsidies in 2 years. That's up from 4.
Well, that's quite the list.
Thanks everyone for their responses. Because of the time that we have left, we have space for one more question. So kind of coming out of left field, but I'm sure it's within everyone's scope. The question is, the federal government is doing an environmental assessment on the 413 highway. Would you advocate for the project to be cancelled? So our order for answering that would be Adam, Chris, and then Mohammed. Adam, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Kane. Very quickly, I already have advocated for the project to be canceled. I've also met with advocates for the 413, and they've said to me that it will create jobs. It will create more transit, because apparently there's a train project that is associated with it. There's public transit routes along it. I think that if you use some of the best agricultural land in the province to build more roads, then you'll just get more cars. And just before this election was called, I found I worked really, really hard with the Minister of Transportation, like extraordinarily hard, back to when it was Mark Garneau. And then when it was Omar Alghabra from Mississauga, I went straight to his office and I said, look, we're talking about both directions all day GO train service, because that'll have a phenomenal impact on both of our ridings. We've got a university campus coming in Milton, and we can't have people coming in on the 401 in cars in order to get to school. We've got to have public transit be an opportunity, or sorry, be a choice that students can make to come from Toronto and Mississauga to go to Laurier-Conestoga campus in Milton. And we don't need more universities. We do need more universities. We don't need more highways, because we don't need more cars. We need more public transit and better options. The 413 advocate said that most cars will be electric by then. There's going to be autonomous driving. There's going to be more public transit. I don't want to pave some of the best agricultural land in Ontario. That's where we're going to grow food for decades to come. So I'm not in favor of it. I'm absolutely not. And I understand it'll create jobs, but we'll have to create jobs in a way that is carbon neutral and more progressive. I'm always open to have my mind changed, but on this one, I'm pretty strong. And maybe I can leave it there, and then you can be lenient later when I want 20 more seconds.
Okay, and so I hope you're all up for one more question, since we have time.
Well, to address the 413 issue, so I'm assuming you already have your Stop the 413 sign on your lawn. I don't have to bring one over? Do you have one on your lawn, or do you need one there?
Are you
Mohammed?
talking to me, Chris?
Yeah, I'm talking to both you guys. So I'm assuming you have a Stop for the 413 sign on your lawn.
No, I have a political sign on my lawn right now.
Well, you can put a 413 sign too. There's no law against putting both signs.
Or I could be part of the group that ensured that it was on the agenda for an environmental assessment, and I was.
Well, I would love to be in that position, to be in that as well. Like, I would love to have had the advantage of being the incumbent, where you know what's in the pipeline because you're part of the process. I would have loved to have been in that and at the meeting. No disrespect, but yes. I'm also opposed to paving over farmland for 413. I was involved in the local planning exercise we had to develop the local municipal plan input around developing on transit hubs. So I'm very familiar with the process as well. One thing I find amazing is that there's no transit service to that Halton Hills Mall. And I know it's not in Milton, but it's still, I don't understand. I can never for the life of me understand that they built that parking garage, but you can't take transit to that mall, just like you say about taking it to university students in town. But anywho, thank you. Thanks for asking, Marina.
Thanks for the responses. Mohammed, your response?
I guess, like, this new plan of Highway 413 is unnecessary. It's like a mega highway that would pave over the farmland. It would pave over the forest, and it would also add, like, they're saying like more than 17 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So and right now we have 407, and it is underused, and yet the province is kind of trying to build another east-west just 15 kilometers away. And how much time we would spend, just like 30 to 60 seconds per trip. That is like, I guess that is absolutely no. And building 403 is also would cost Ontarians taxpayer like a lot, like billions. It means that you would have less money to spend on education. You would have less money to spend on healthcare, and more money to spend on the highways, which is and it is not saving like any per trips, and like it's so I would say it would add like more greenhouse gas emissions. It would damage the economy. It would add 1.4 billion. They're saying like it would add like 1.4 or 1.5 billion dollar more damage to from the pollution of this. So I guess we need to take action, and we need to tell the Ontario government to cancel this restrictive highway, and instead invest more into the future of Ontarians than just investing in this mega project.
Well, there seems to be a consensus on the answer to that question. We have one more question, And the answering order for this one will be Mohammed first, then Adam, and then Chris. And I promise I won't cut any of you off. And the question is this: what is your plan to end the extraction and use of fossil fuels in Canada over the next few decades? Mohammed.
So, NDP has a clear plan. Instead of just like liberals, we they talk too much. They have according to the experts the best plan, but like every plan needs implementation. Every plan needs action. NDP believe in that we have to come to the net zero by 2035 so we will invest more into renewable energy. We'll invest more into the clean water. We'll invest more into so we have a plan which is will ask the polluters, the big polluters, to pay for their fair share. The carbon pricing is just one tool to fight against this, and we have a plan to fight the climate crisis, and we have to fight just to win it, not just to talk. So I guess reducing the fossil fuel and reducing the carbon footprint is the way to go. That's all I want to say on this.
Adam?
Thanks. I forgot to mention in my previous answer that I think we should make the 407 public rather than build a new highway, because that would provide everybody access to the 407. And Mohammed reminded me of it. As often, the NDP and the Liberal agrees on things. Number one, it's a supply and demand thing. And as long as there is a demand for oil and gas, there will be supply, and we've got to change that. And that will require innovation. And that's why I'm really proud of the fact that the Ford plant right here in Halton, in Oakville, will be producing electric vehicles, because as the demand for oil and gas drops, the supply will ultimately not be necessary anymore. But that also applies to things like single-use plastics. Some of a large percentage of the oil and gas produced goes into things like single-use plastics. We should be using fiber, we should be using hemp, we should be using paper more often. We don't need plastics to be used once and thrown in the garbage. And that's part of our plan. We are indeed going to end single-use plastics. And I'm glad that many restaurants here in Milton have adopted more sustainable practices. This afternoon, I got my lunch at the Lunchbox Cafe. It was a quesadilla, and it was in a compostable container that will turn into soil in 90 days after it's in the dirt. So that's pretty cool that some companies locally are already taking it upon themselves, but it will be the law for many single-use plastics. And I'm going to push to make sure that more single-use plastic products are banned. But I want to talk a little bit about the Net Zero Accelerator Fund, because this is a way that we are going to basically put it onto a treadmill, put a lot of these good practices, a lot of these innovative ideas, a lot of these technologies that are going to help us get past oil and gas, completely eliminate coal, and get to the point where the only time you need a little bit of gasoline is maybe for your chainsaw out in the woods or something like that. Hopefully there'll be electric chainsaws by then. There's going to be very, very little need for oil and gas in 20 years. And that's because we're going to innovate and we're going to create new technologies that will make fossil fuels history, just like they were when they were dinosaurs a million years ago, or maybe that was a billion years ago.
And Chris?
Yes. Well, one thing I haven't done, because I'm not a policy wonk, but I can read right off of the Green Party policy of what we will do, because it's called a bold statement, because apparently I belong to the government of Canada, and there is a climate emergency. The UN just had another IPCC report. It is an actual emergency. And as someone who's been involved for 40 years, banging your head against the wall saying, there's an emergency. I used to think of myself, like I've said, as the quaint little canary in the coal mine, chirping to warn of impending danger. And now I feel what I say are like the shrieks of a banshee whose wails tell of impending doom. The Greens will cancel all new pipeline projects, beginning with Trans Mountain. Cancel all new oil exploration projects, including in the offshore, and leasing of federal lands for fossil fuel production and retire existing licenses. Ban hydraulic fracking, and all subsidies to the fossil fuel sector, all subsidies. phase out existing oil and gas operations so that they continue on a declining basis, with bitumen production phased out between 2030 and 2035. Require federal public investment funds, including the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, to divest from fossil fuels. Ensure companies are held accountable for paying for the cost of cleaning up and restoring land, instead of passing these on to the public. There's a huge liability in the oil and gas sector that hasn't been addressed, and we need to do that. That includes a just transition for workers. For every penny spent in alternative sustainable fuels creates more money and more jobs than in the fossil fuel sector. So I could talk about what the Green Party would do, but what it takes is the political will for everyone to vote. And I'm just frustrated because, Adam, you've got all the answers. You've been doing your homework. You're all sharp, but more has to be done. It's 40 years later. Do you want to be 87 and still talking about this? Because I can tell you, I that's how I feel. When you were 2 years old, I was talking about this, and now, yeah, how old are you? It's not much has changed. So, it's great.
Boy, Chris,
yeah.
it is.
Oh, sorry, I
here.
apologize. I stopped looking at Shirley. I'm sorry, Shirley. Thank you.
All right. And now it's going to be time for the closing statements from each of the candidates. If you would please prepare your closing remarks. And the order for the remarks is going to be, Chris is going to go first, then Mohammed, and then Adam. And each one of you will have 3 minutes for your closing statements. Chris.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to the Halton Environmental Network and your partners and all the work you do in between elections, because as you know, better than anybody, what an uphill struggle it is when you're advocating for change that doesn't deliver return on investment for shareholders, because that seems to be where you get the most result. And as someone who's been involved as long as I have as a connection to Milton, I wanted Adam to rebuttal about how many times you've been to the farmers market. The cargo van that I drive came from Nick Moulet, who, like I said, was one of the first Italians in Milton, and he bought that van brand new when he was 72, and he drove it till he was 92 to that farmers market the whole time, and he just passed away last year. But I've been working on his daughter's properties as a general contractor in the downtown Milton and on the main strip for a long time. I worked, like I said, at Glen Eden, was a lift supervisor, and a lot of the old Milton and Campbellville families I've known for a long time. I've always said Milton is emblematic of what Canada should be. It defines the fact that everybody comes from somewhere else. And Milton is a fine example of that. I've always said that I'm Canadian by accident of birth, but people who made a choice as an adult to come to Canada to become Canadian, they usually are more Canadian and talk about being Canadian more than people who are second and third generation and say, oh, I'm Ukrainian, or I'm Dutch Canadian, or I'm whatever. But if you came here and made a choice to become a Canadian, you exemplify what it means to be Canadian, was acknowledging our differences. And that's what's frustrating in politics, is that there's so much more that we have in common than we have that differs us. I mean, and particularly in this little group here, like I said, it's frustrating that we're in the echo chamber of progressive thought, because unfortunately there's a bigger, greater world out there, and 40% of them are not embracing a progressive vision of the future. So I like to think I would do just as good a job as anybody as advocating on behalf of the citizens of Milton. I have a long-standing connection. I have a long career in the beverage alcohol career. I have a long career as a general contractor. I always tell people, Google search my name, see if you can find a bad result or a negative review, because you can't. If anything, I speak uncomfortable truths, and I'm very comfortable with that. So on September 20th, I really appreciate your support in the honor of all the people who've come before me, and for respect of your democratic choice. Please pick Chris Kowalczyk, the Green Party.
Thank you, Chris. Mohammed, your closing statement.
First of all, I'd like to thank you and all the panel for organizing this wonderful debate. I would like to say, New Democrats are different, because we've been working for the people and for the whole history. We have fought for the better working conditions and better working standards that can lift everyone up. And we know that the good jobs that treat people fairly make real difference in people's life, and setting Canadians up for the success. We see that the future benefits are for all. So there are new ways of thinking that can shape the recovery from the COVID-19. So help make us the economy fairer and to deliver the results that we all want. I like to invite you to think, that what you have seen over the past 6 years is that, a liberal prime minister who would love to say the right things, who would promise you and to address the issues that matters to Canadian, but with no intention to delivering upon them. And liberals have been promising pharmacare and child care for decades, since 1997, but there's no implementation. And in May of 2020, for example, just 15 months ago, when Jagmeet Singh, called the Justin Trudeau to introduce the paid sick leave, he said provinces need to look at the way they deliver the sick leave. But then, in August, he suddenly admitted that yes, the federal can indeed fund the paid leave. This is cynical. This is cynical politics, I would say. And then, a conservative leader, he's trying his best to convince that he is kind of, taking his party into the 21st century. But most of his caucus is not agreeing with him. Most of his caucus is not, especially on the key issues of, health and, creating the systems where rich and poor can have, so he's saying healthcare where the rich can kind of jump the line. So I would say Jagmeet Singh and NDP has a record and record of fighting for you. And instead of just protecting the billionaires, and you should to profit from the pandemic. A figure of $87 billion which the billionaires had made during this pandemic. So I guess on September 20th, I hope that you would consider electing me as your MP, so I can fight for you, and I'll fight for you every single day. I was born and raised in Pakistan and came here. I went to McMaster for my master's. I'm father of four kids. I can see Shirley is flagging the red. So thank you so much, and I hope that I'll be your choice on the September 20th, and DP will be your choice. Thank you so much.
Adam, the last word to you.
Thank you. I once again want to thank the organizers, and I also want to thank my colleagues who put their name on the ballot. It's hard to put your name on the ballot. It's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to run. So I thank you for participating in democracy. I'll also say that I continue to be disappointed that other parties didn't come today, particularly the Conservatives. I'm upset that the second most likely outcome continues to be the worst case scenario in Canada. I think that there are smart Conservatives out there that believe in climate change and want to do the right thing. There are also good examples of other countries in the world that have Conservative governments that want to take action on climate change. The UK is a good example. I don't agree that they're doing necessarily enough, but they're doing a heck of a lot more than our Conservative Party is offering. So I guess that comes down to the reality that the CPC is just so heavily influenced by oil and gas and the fossil fuel industry that it's almost become, the oil and gas party. I saw those T-shirts, and I've seen Aaron O'Toole wear those T-shirts that say, "I love oil and gas." Yeah, well, I love trees and water. And that's why I ran originally. And that's why I've knocked on over 300,000 doors in Milton. I just passed the 300,000 mark the other day. I knocked on 250,000 in the previous campaign. So I'd also say, while it's hard to put your name on the ballot, it's even harder to campaign in earnest put your name out there and actually get out there, knock on doors and make a difference. Kids ask me all the time, how can I make a difference in this country? And I'll be honest with you, I tell them to go and beat conservative candidates. Go out there and run a campaign to get more progressives in the House of Commons. And that's a tough thing to do. I'm proud of the work that we've done, but we're not done yet. We've got a lot more work to do, but I also don't mind saying that since 2015, we've invested over $100 billion toward climate action and clean growth. And if that's not concerted action, then I don't know what is. We are making a difference. We are having a tremendous impact, and we must continue to go forward. I'm proud to live and work here in Milton because I get to support so many great organizations and people that are doing important work. I love being able to bring these important ideas to the fore up in Ottawa when I have the chance to go, and I'm going to be even prouder still to go up on your behalf in a couple of weeks, hopefully, and continue to do this work on your behalf. We're going to create new national parks, and we're going to create new conservation areas. I stood up in the House of Commons the last time I was there in person to talk about the importance of conservation, and to speak out against Doug Ford's cuts that are having a negative impact on CAs across our province. We've also got to make sure that Canadians continue to have access to good, well-paying jobs. And that's why experts have looked at our plan and said it's not just the most feasible, it's also the most ambitious. And if you're voting climate this year, then you're voting Liberal. I want to finish because I know that I'm running out of time, but I want to finish by focusing on something that we didn't address today, which is truth and reconciliation with Indigenous people. And I'm going to take the 20 seconds that I forfeited over last time and just read the quote from my friend, Valerie Courtois. The Guardians program transforms lives and communities, reconnecting with culture, healing from trauma, and feeling pride and identity. All of it is rooted in our relationship with the land and our cultural responsibility to look after it. Guardians are on the ground, sustaining these values, and I'm proud that we support Valerie Courtois, the Guardians, and many other Indigenous land protection organizations across this country. It's something that's unique to our platform, unique to our party, unique to our plan going forward, and I'm really proud of it. And I'll be even prouder still to continue to be your member of parliament in the years to come.
Thank you, Adam. So thank you all for being a part of the 100 debates on the environment and more this evening. Thank you to all the candidates and their teams. We appreciate your support. Gratitude to our partners, GreenPAC, CFUW Oakville, CFUW Georgetown, Sustainable Milton, Halton Hills Public Library, and GASP, and participation from Burlington Green. We truly appreciate all the support and for helping us organize tonight's debate. I would also like to thank my co-moderator, Kane, our timekeeper, Shirley Wang, and on behalf of the entire team at HEN, thank you for your time this evening. Please stay connected to HEN and our partners to learn more about local climate action. And don't forget to get out and vote. Advance polls open on September 10th. Voting day is September 20th. For more information, obviously, check out Elections Canada website. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. See you guys later.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris, Adam, and Mohammed.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
You too, brother.